Good evening, iRacers. Welcome to Apex Racing TV and our weekly broadcast of the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. We are here tonight at Indianapolis Circuit, the road version, and week 11 already. Lee Thompson here, Sam Fitzpatrick joining me on comms with Samuli Kumo in the camera booth. Sam, yeah, I can't believe the season's almost flown by already. Just one more week to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fantastic to cover this series for the past 11 weeks, and these iRacing series, or seasons, they always absolutely fly by for some reason. It's quite incredible. You'd think it's just 4 of them a year, but before you know it, they're over and done with. And no, this has been a great season for the Formula 3.5 car. Indianapolis, an interesting way to come to the penultimate round of the season, a track that not necessarily all these drivers have a lot of experience around, but it is a pretty good racetrack. Big slipstreaming opportunities, plenty of overtaking chances, and yeah, a really unique roval circuit.
Yeah, and perhaps not that popular this week with the regulars. We've actually only got one split for the race tonight, which I'm pretty sure is the first time we've had that this season for our broadcaster split. So it'd be good to see maybe a couple of different names in the session that we haven't seen before, see how they get on. And talking about how drivers have been getting on, let's have a quick look at the current championship standings as we head into tonight's race. We can see as the drop weeks are maybe beginning to sort of sort themselves out and shuffle around a little bit. Paul Ilbrink all of a sudden has jumped to the top of the standings, 1,688 points, just a whisper ahead of Christoph Herbeno, who's been at the top for a couple of previous weeks. Tim Delisle there is right in it as well. So those three guys, look, what's 17 points between the three of them. It's going to be interesting to see if anyone else can jump that bridge with their drop weeks kicking in. But yeah, very, very close at the top. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out come end of this week and into next week.
Definitely. In terms of the drop weeks, I mean, they've all got 8 weeks counted. In fact, the top 7 all have 8 weeks counted. So Matti Supler, watch out for him. He might gain a few places, but I don't think he's going to challenge for the title. A few hundred points off the lead. But it would be interesting to see, and just looking at some stats, Ilbrink's only taken part in 10 races so far this season, and we've been going for 10 weeks. So he's literally only done this split, pretty much, which is remarkable that he's scored that many points. He has been mega consistent, to be fair, constantly on the podium. And he's scoring a couple of wins, but he's really raked in those points. Meanwhile, Christoph Herbeno and Tim Delisle, maybe not quite that consistency Delisle recall to get things taken out at Montreal, for example. But, I mean, with 16 points between them, or 17 points between the three of them, it's pretty much a two-race shootout. It should be fascinating to see those guys go at it. I know that Ilbrink and Delisle are here today. Herbeno, unfortunately, isn't, I believe, but it'll still be great to see Delisle and Ilbrink up there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the opportunity for them to, well, maybe not so much an opportunity tonight for them to score big points because, of course, we haven't got the second split. So the strength of field for the session will be a reasonably chunk lower than it has been for previous weeks, I'm sure. So perhaps it's not going to be a big miss from Herbeno, but we shall see. So qualifying, as we can see, has finished up. Tim Delisle takes pole position by quite a healthy chunk. Look over Paul Ilbrink, 0.3 of a second. So Tim Delisle first, Paul Ilbrink in second. Ronaldo Augusto, that's got to be the strongest qualifying that we've seen from him this season. Third place, half a second down from pole. I'm Keeman then a strong qualifying as well in fourth. Lubomir Moric, perhaps a little bit lower down the grid compared to Augusto and Keeman, as you might expect him to be. James Pinkster, I believe we saw him for the first time last week in 6th. Omar Bahar then in 7th with Rob Bohr. Again, might be a little bit disappointed down in that 8th position, I think. Luke Groom then in 9th with Edward Samborski in 10th. Again, perhaps a little bit disappointed with that position. Cedric Abil, in 11th with Alessandro Roccatello in 12th. 13th is Thomas Knoll, David Weisbeck in 14th, Andreas Fromm in 15th with Ollie Prenton in 16th, Scott Sims 17th, Nugent in 18th with Stefan Zinski in 19th, Emil Ludovic in 20th, Joshua Collins 21st, Alessandro Blanco in 22nd, and David Lopez taking a lonely final position in 23rd. So good to see some different names mixing it up a little bit in the field there. But yeah, strong qualifying from 3rd and 4th position, especially, I think, Augusto and Keeman.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, I got Moritz just behind them. Watch out for Thomas Knoll as well, sliding down in 13th place. Not usually too strong in qualifying, but he should be very good in the race.
And so we can see then the lights are about to go green for week 11 here at Indianapolis Road Course. And green flag does drop. Tyndall gets a good initial launch. Looked like second position. Ilbrink's going to be under a tiny bit of pressure maybe from Augusto, but his second phase of the start looked pretty better. And what a great view, seeing that mass of cars all streaming down into this tricky turn one. How's it going to end up in the middle of the field? Or third and fourth place looking a bit tricky. Bill is that with Luke Groom there in amongst things as well. And contact back for 13th, 14th, 15th, and we can see those contact further ahead as cars are recovering as well. So we'll catch up on the replays there. But Augusto is one of the cars involved, as is Moric. So two of the top guys in after qualifying, and we just see cars strewn all over the circuit for Fitzpatrick. It looked like a bit of a shambles of a turn one there, unfortunately.
Yeah, circa 06, I think, with cars flying off, doing barrel rolls at turn 2. And you can see the amount of damage. Ronaldo Augusto completely missing part of his car. Not sure if that's an element of the new damage model, but good to see
I've
parts
not
of
seen
that.
that level of damage before. No.
Yeah, parts of that completely falling off. Watch out for that for the next build, of course. But meanwhile, out in the lead, Tim Dallar, only 3/4 of a second ahead. He's pretty much won every race that he has entered in this season. Of the splits that we've seen. Also Herbino, to be fair, usually a challenge for him. Ilbrink, though, very strong in qualifying, stronger than he usually is in qualifying. Look at the sparse of the field. I mean, a massive gap between first and 10th place, 10 seconds, when usually they're within about 5 seconds at this point. Just shows how the collisions have really separated this pack. But I am Keeman doing a brilliant job right now, keeping right up with the 2 championship contenders.
Yeah, absolutely. He's hustling Neil Brink along at the minute, isn't he? But like you say, it's just blown the field apart the instant there in turn one. And hopefully that's not going to bode too badly for a race as we go through the rest of the night. Hopefully we're going to see some good little battles. I can see one on the timing screen between Samborski and Roccatello, and the cameraman cuts to it in perfect timing. And side by side as they come through the corner, but Roccatello loses out and Samborski gained that position, so he made that place there, jumping up into that 8th position as they work their way through the last little sequence of the infield and then back out onto the oval again.
Thomas Knoll running very wide there, just messing up one of those corners. It really compromises your run through the next 2, and then you're sitting duck down this next massive straight, of course, flat out for what must be about 20 seconds in these 3.5 cars, which are so quick down the straights as it is. And you can just dip into that slipstream, and that overspeed should be tremendous as they go through the oval turn 1. And goes to the outside, but Knoll actually having pretty good straight line speed. You can see a narrower rear wing on that car, and that's really helping him down the straights. The drivers will perhaps go for different strategies with that downforce today. Knoll having to leave room for his rival on the inside. A driver just ahead, going a little bit wide as well, so they'll catch up to that pack. And Samborski, I said that Knoll would be a sitting duck, but I was completely wrong. And instead, he maintains that 6th place gain as we've got a spinner. That is a back marker, though, I believe. Might be Augusto.
Yeah, see Joshua Collins there recovering back to the circuit, and a big squabble behind Collins as well as they come through the corner. There we go. Omar Baha and Blanco under lots of pressure through the previous sequence. But Blanco there we could see ran a little bit wide and has let Baha off the hook. But yeah, looking pretty frantic out there for a minute as Blanco loses a rear mid-corner, it looks like. Gathers it back up, avoids the wall, fortunately. But yeah, that's cost him the opportunity to challenge and lost one more spot as well, down into 19th from the last of the current runners. Samborski still desperately trying to get past Thomas Knoll. So Knoll we know is going to have the top speed advantage now as they come down through the front straight. So interesting that Samborski couldn't make enough of his extra downforce through the infield as Thomas Knoll just a little bit blinky down the front straight as well. That's not going to encourage Samborski to make a big move into turn 1. How brave is he going to be on the brakes this time? Much later than Knoll this time by. Gets a good inside line, but Knoll trying to hang on in there. They're still side by side as they come through, but eventually Thomas Knoll has to relinquish the position, and Samborski took some a lap and a half or so, but he finally makes that 7th position.
Yeah, and as long as Knoll can stay within about 0.7 of a second, I think he's going to have a great chance at the end of the next straight. But you can just see through this S's section really struggling to keep up and already dropping quite a long way behind. 1.2 seconds, incredible amount of gap there. That's probably not the turbulent air whatsoever. That is literally just the grip that he's got through the corners. Next up behind him is Roccatello. Remember, Knoll started behind these guys, but managed to navigate his way through the first few corners very nicely. And I think Rocketail will soon be past them. Also, James Pinkska, a driver who we haven't seen too much from in this race, started up in 6th place, actually did Pinkska, so probably faster than these 3 guys ahead of him. And he's not running too much downforce either, seemingly, on that car, so he should be able to make some moves.
Yeah, here we go. Great onboard view now as he's going to dive out from the slipstream. Doesn't look like Rocketail is going to put up any defence at all, so Pinsker should be clean through as he by turn 1. He's still alongside, in fact, so Rocketail hanging in there with his top speed. Pinsker later on the brakes. Rocketail backs right off, gives him the position, but he ended up being a little bit of a challenge under braking at least. And we can see now that he's still got Thomas Noel and Edward Samborski close ahead there for Pinsker to try and chase down next. He just clips a little bit of grass on the exit of turn 4.
That was incredible from Thomas Noel down that straight. He literally went from 1.1 seconds, as we were saying, in the mid part of the track. I think he probably fell about 1.5 seconds behind, and by the end of the pit straight, he was right on his tail. It just shows the straight line speed that he's got in that car with that very narrow rear wing. Here is Blanco going at battle once again with Joshua Collins. Opportunity for a couple of these guys to gain some nice iRacing. Dear.
Well, that was a shame. Looked like a nice little battle between the two of them there. Sam gave each other space, and in the end, just loss of rear traction is what caused the contact. So hopefully they can both carry on. They're battling for the last 2 spots in the field. But here's hoping that they're not suffering from severe damage and they can get back to it and regain that battle again. James Pinsker then making another move on Thomas Noel, so that only took him a lap to make the extra position. A little bit of a lock under braking though, so Thomas Noel all over the back of him mid-corner, but Pinsker should be safe and now can chase after Edward Samborski again, who in turn is looking reasonably close now to Luke Groom, just ahead of him in 6th position. So Groom's going to find Samborski and Pinsker, I think, pretty close behind him in not too long at all. Just quick glance at the front. Tim Dalal is still leading the race, not streaking away at all though, so only 1.3 seconds back to Paul Ilbrink, and we can see the same for Keeman. He's keeping Ilbrink honest as well, just another 1.2 1.3 seconds back. So it'll be interesting to keep a little bit of an eye on this top 3 as they're not stretching right out, but as we saw off that first lap, they've got a huge gap back to 4th position, 7.5 seconds back to 4th of Rob Bohr, who's having a bit of a lonely race as well.
Really matching each other at the moment, Abdullah and Ilbrink. I think their last 2 laps have both been within about half a tenth of one another. So it seems as though Dalal's just about got enough. You'd expect Dalal to be slightly more cautious at the moment because he's got a whole lot more to lose than for Ilbrink. But a 2nd place for Ilbrink would not be too bad for his points haul. Can be ever so close in the championship. Fantastic rivalry we've seen this season. Sometimes with these official series, it's difficult to kind of get connected with the drivers because you have 20 different drivers each week. But it's been fantastic to see the same 10 or so drivers consistently back every single week, and it does really feel like a league this because got a proper championship which we've been able to follow right from the start. Groom is now under pressure from Samborski. Groom, we haven't been talked about too much, gained 3 places from his start. Here comes Samborski down the inside. It's going to lose each other a whole lot of time because you really want to take the racing line. Any compromise on that is going to lose you plenty of time potentially. But I think, actually, Groom's got a little bit less rear wing, it seems, so he should have slightly better straight line speed. We've seen Samborski struggle to make moves so far today. And whilst this happens, Pinsker will easily catch up to these guys. Side by side for 6th and 7th place now. Yeah,
so Samborski in the end cruises by. Looks like maybe Groom had a little bit of a lift, I think, just to let him by. Trying to tuck back into the slipstream. Is he going to have a sniff into turn 1? I don't think so. It shows his nose. But as you said, quite rightly, Sam Pinsker now is right in amongst it as well. So 3-car battle for that 6th position. Pinsker's going to want to get past Groom as quick as he possibly can to make sure Samborski doesn't have the opportunity to scamper away. And already you can see he's putting that little bit of time in between himself and Groom. Talking about movers from the grid, by the way, Cedric Bill, another big gainer from the instance in turn 1, lap 1 there. So gained 6 positions from his starting slot, currently running that 5th place. Again, looks a little bit lonely on track at the minute, but these guys behind are coming to try and take that 5th place from him.
Yeah, I think Pinsker particularly has enough pace to catch Cedric Bill. On that last lap, he was 4 tenths faster think maybe Samborski as well has got that potentially. He's only 2 seconds behind as well, is Samborski. But Pinsko's really got to get this one done nice and quickly if he possibly can, as Anders From just getting overtaken by Omar Baha out there. That's the answer for 12th and 13th place. Baha started up in 7th place. The starting positions really don't correlate whatsoever with the results at the moment out there, just due to the chaos we saw in the first few corners. So Baha could have been in for a terrific race, but actually hasn't quite turned out that way. Pinska's just got ahead of Groom. There we are. And you can see still right on the back of Samborski, in fact. So maybe those two using their DRSs, they have 8 available, I believe, across the race. Just helps your overtaking a little bit, and also means that you can maybe go for the fast lap if that's something that you want to aim for. And Pinsko with that skinny rear wing, I think he's going to be onto these next two very quickly, as Cedric Bill really falls into the clutches of these guys. And that last lap, he lost 2 seconds to Edward Samborski.
Yeah, it does look like he's going to struggle to hold on to that place for much longer. I have to say, though, his fastest lap is a decent chunk quicker, so maybe he just had a scruffy one last time by. But we can see that Samborski is all over the back of him as these cars just struggle a little bit, it seems, through the infield. And you can see how much time Samborski took out of him last time. And rear wing difference, again, looks like Cedric Bill's got the advantage down this front straight. So if he can get back into a little bit of a rhythm again, he might be able to hold Samborski at bay for a little while, all the time allowing Pinska just to claw back up again. Just a little bit further back, I can see a close battle with 13th and 14th, I think, between Scott Sims and Andreas From. Just a couple of attempts between those two, but it looks like From maybe struggling down the front straight. And we see how much time Scott Sims is putting in there with that skinny rear wing, and he's just pulling away from Froms, and is now back at second. So we can maybe ignore that battle for the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just constant Constantina there, because you kind of got this decent length straight in the middle of the circuit, and then that massive pit straight as Samborski goes for the dummy. This is his best chance to make the move, and around this part of the circuit, as long as the driver heads, we just can't go past in that kind of third part of the corner. Just trying to line this one up. But if he pulls out too early, as we're about to see, I think, he's just going to lose some straight line speed. He needs to gather some momentum in the slipstream and then go past and kind of slingshot his way past his rival. Pinska is only 7/10 of a second behind these guys, and I kind of fancy Pinska to pass both these guys into turn 1, because he's got 3 lows drag as well. Samborski, as I was saying, pulled out too early, and now he's having to dip back into the slipstream. Is there going to be any defence by Cedric Bill? It's a wide turn 1, it's difficult to defend. He's trying his absolute best. Round the outside goes Edward Samborski. Can he keep his nose on the inside? Don't want a repeat of turn 1, that one. And that is a really nice defensive move there from Bill. Good, respectful racing from the pair of them. Here comes Samborski once again. Bill knows that as long as he can just hold off around this part of the circuit, he'll be fine down the pit straight. But that's a lot easier said than done, as round the outside goes Samborski. So much more grip. And now we go on to the second longest straight off the track, and the advantage falls back into Cedric Bill's hands. He has a few extra miles an hour. Pinska's going to go for a very reckless move, potentially. You really ought to just wait for these two guys to take each other out, because that's looking how it's going to be at the moment. Almost contact between the two of them, and finally moving ahead, at least for now, is Edward Samborski. Pinska will try to get involved, but both these guys are just going to be towing themselves back up to the back of Samborski by the end of the straight.
Yeah, what a fantastic view we had of that battle there from the front wing of Pinska. So thanks very much to Pinska for providing us that grandstand view. And he's looking to make a move now on Cedric Bill straight away. He's going to be outside for turn 1. But Bill's going to get boxed in a little bit by the slow Samborski with his high rear wing. So they are ending up 3 wide into turn 1. Pinska around the outside. He's going to make both the spots, I think. Samborski's going to struggle to hang in there, but he does. Pinska goes a little bit wide, and almost Cedric Bill now is going to be challenging back up the inside on Pinska, and in fact he is. Pinska going to get the drive off the corner, and he should be safe now for this next left-hander, and finally Bill has to recede. But 3 wide into turn 1 there, looked like it was going to be a little bit messy, but they managed to shake themselves out. Pinska got completely boxed by Samborski going down the front straight, and that scuppered his opportunity to hold Pinska off.
Yeah, it really did. Brilliant driving from these guys. I don't think we saw any unfair moves for about the 2 laps where they were all side by side. That is a really good jump because it's lost them a lot of time. They're now 10 seconds behind Rob Bohr. And Rob Bohr isn't really any faster than these guys. It's just that they've been involved in so many battles. Also, you can see Thomas Knoll getting involved as well. But I think Bill is going to be catching back. Well, actually, it'll be Pinsker trying to challenge Samborski. About a second between them at the moment, so not going to be much of an opportunity. Bill trying to stay in the slipstream of the driver ahead just so they can hold off Luke Groom, who's some nice pace. Might be able to look down the inside into turn one. That's what he goes for. It was a bit of a half-hearted attempt. They kind of realised how that could potentially lead to an accident, and Boy backed out a bit better as Thomas Knoll really onto the back of these guys now.
Yeah, we've got Scott Sims and Prenton side by side as they go over the start-finish line for the beginning of their lap 13. Sims looks like he's got that held off into turn one, and indeed he does. Looks pretty calm. And yeah, Prenton just has a little bit of a tougher turn one and drops a little way back. So yeah, Scott Sims 5 positions gained now from his starting slot as well. Nice to see these different names in the broadcast, as we said. Normally, maybe in the second split, Cedric Bill going for a bit of rallycross alongside Luke Groom there, who does well to avoid him. Thomas Knoll getting backed up as well. So we'll have a look in a minute and see what happened to Bill, but he's going to be under lots and lots of pressure now from Luke Groom as they come back down the front straight. Thomas Knoll wanting a bit of that straight away as well, trying to get out of the gearbox of Luke Groom there with a high level rear wing, and all three of them now going to be thundering down into turn one. So how defensive is Cedric Bill going to stay? Luke Groom trying to push further to the inside, but Bill continues to defend. Thomas Knoll's going to have a good run around the outside. Can he be late enough on the brakes? He can't. Gets for one position for the minute. Luke Groom's backs out of it slightly, and Cedric Bill holds on for now. So Thomas Knoll's connection still struggling away a little bit in this race, as is his rear tyres. Nearly has a big tank slapper on exit there, and here's what happened to Cedric Bill half a lap ago.
Yeah, so just heading into this, right, so already a bit of a slowdown, or that might be a back marker, goes way too deep. He must have had to serve a slowdown as well, did Bill, after that course cutting. So probably just got the car stopped. Did he round this part of the circuit, or?
It was weird. He didn't really somehow, like, he managed to hold the guys behind, didn't he? You know, didn't seem like he had to have a big lift or anything. As Samborski now has an issue as well, also running out wide, and we see Cedric Bill in the background trying to capitalise from his error. But yeah, very strange that we didn't see an obvious slowdown from Bill there. So
I
somehow
imagine
got away
perhaps his reference, the iRacing reference, is perhaps when he had a toe, and so he didn't have a toe that time, and so the slowdown kind of served itself.
Yeah, good call. Samborski, we can see, definitely did get a slowdown that time. So Samborski lifts and just has to let Cedric Bill completely by. Unless that was just a pure rear wing difference, but it did seem that Bill just cruised on by. So yeah, Bill back up to 6th, Samborski back down to 7th.
Getting quite tight between the top two all of a sudden. Poor Ilpink flashes purple on our live timing screen, which you can have access to in the description below, I believe. Keep up to date with all the drives' lap times, and poor Ilpink, who was 1.5 seconds behind as Cedric Bill goes off the circuit, and well, he won't be concerned about the slowdown this time because it's lost him a lot of time. It's going to be by himself, seemingly. This is Samborski just behind him, although actually this could well be contact. Samborski going down the inside, and well, Bill wanted to cover it off. Samborski really wanted to go for the move. Perhaps not the wisest thing to go to battle at that very corner. And it's Bill who's lost out, and perhaps a little bit of damage as well. He falls down to 9th place, which isn't too bad, but of course he was running as high as 5th earlier on.
Yeah, shame for Bill there. A little bit impatient from Samborski that time. Yeah, we've seen Samborski all season long. He's a fair racer, so just an error of judgment on his part. But yeah, so just that unfortunate contact relegated Bill, and back marker unlapping himself on Bill as well, just to rub it in for Cedric also. Back at the front, Paul Lilbrink's just dropped off ever so slightly after you seeing him close up that previous lap. So he's back down to over a second gap now, as Ollie Prenton and Scott Sims still battling hard, as we saw a couple of laps ago. Ollie Prenton going to have the inside line this time into turn one. How brave is Scott Sims going to be on the brakes, and getting quite cautious from Brenton, just as we saw last time round, and ended up pretty easy for Sims to defend that time by.
Been a good day for drivers with surnames of Sims today in the motorsport world. I'm not sure if Scott Sims is going to be able to replicates a race win today, but still winning out in that battle, going ahead of Ollie Princeton. Luke Groom then, he's still trying. Oh, he's actually been overtaken by. He was overtaken by Noel a while ago, and well, there he is getting straight back past because Thomas Noel with a mistake. We were seeing him slide that rear end earlier on. Wonder if that low rear wing is really hurting him. Very low track temperature today, so plenty of grip for the drivers to use. That's maybe why they are going quite so low downforce, because they feel as though they can take some liberties out there. But too much sliding there for Thomas Noel, as Omar Baha trying to get 10th place off Cedric Bill. Bill really should be struggling down the straights, but actually got a much skinnier rear wing, but much more confidence for Baha to go around the outside. He is slowly recovering those positions after a terrible couple of laps at the start of the race, but he's now got another 3 seconds to catch up to Alessandro Roccatello.
Yeah, absolutely opportunity for him to gain a couple more spots. But yeah, Cedric Bill really struggling now, maybe with a little bit of damage as well after those couple of off tracks under contact. And as you say, yeah, relegated out of the top 10 is not what he was expecting from this race after running in 5th early on. Andreas Fomm and Scott Sims battling hard further back as well. Just a couple of attempts between them as they work their way through the infield. Scott Sims actually lost out to Prenton at some point on the previous lap. When we last cut away, he had the edge over Ollie Prenton. So Prenton up to 12th. Sims now defending that 13th position from Anders From as they work their way through the end of the infield section and back out onto the oval. This infield section looks so clumsy for these cars. They really do look like they have to be so patient getting going again out onto this open section. And yeah, Anders From now got the opportunity to challenge down the front straight. Looks like he's not quite got the top speed on this one, though, Sam.
Yeah, really just not gaining whatsoever. He's losing time. The gap going over 0.6 of a second. Surely must be some damage. From did have an off earlier on, and just going onto some grass can be quite costly for you. And you can see he's lost any kind of hope. I imagine he'll gain quite a bit through this part of the lap, but because it's all well and good gaining through the corners, it's kind of usually down the straights where you can actually overtake. And here are the race leaders. It's a short lap, this one of the shortest laps of the season. And look at Paul Ilbrink. It's kind of been a case of Ilbrink gains half second one lap and then loses a little bit of time the next lap. On that last lap, it was one of those half second laps. So has gained quite a bit of time, as that could have been disastrous for Tim Delisle following in the tracks of the back marker, and that lost him a couple more tenths of a second. Ilbrink now picking up the slipstream. I think they're running similar downforce levels, these two, but I think the traffic could be a very important part, as traffic are also fighting one another as well, so they may not let past these two too easily.
Yeah, Paul Ilbrink looking confident at the minute as Tim Delisle goes right out onto the grass and entry to that final corner there. I did wonder if the rear was going to step out on him, but looked like he had it all well under control. Let's have a look at how the gap changes. 4.5 tenths they come off the corner. We can see it closing on the timing screen with that slipstream for Paul Ilbrink, down to 2.5 tenths now. So Tim Delisle feels need to defend down the pit wall very early. So let's have a look and see how aggressive Ilbrink is going to be. Sticking his slipstream again as Tim Delisle goes back to the racing line. And Delisle, I think, feels confident that Ilbrink wasn't going to make that move at the end there. And indeed, he does, just stick in it. So we can see there that Ilbrink was 4.5 tenths coming off that final corner. He needs to be, another tenth closer, 3.5 tenths to have a real opportunity to send one up the inside on Delisle. And these guys have got just 2 rotations to go.
Yeah, I thought he had the opportunity, Ilbrink, to maybe draw alongside at least, but either just didn't have the top end speed, maybe got into the rev limiter, of course, perhaps tuning that car so to be quick in fresh air, but perhaps not for the overtaking. Of course, these guys don't have to overtake too many people because can reasonably expect themselves to be out in the lead. Down to 4 tenths of a second again. And once again, Ilbrink's going to have a decent chance. I think he's a little bit further back than he was on the last lap, but he's really got to be decisive now, does Paul Ilbrink, and of course use any DRSs that they've still got available. They're 6 seconds ahead of Keeman. He will certainly take advantage of a contacts from these two, but he would have to really rely on that. They are pretty much free to fight, even if it does lose them a bit of time. As last lap, 2 laps to go, and they might just catch up to this back markers with about 1.5 laps to go.
Yeah, and Ilbrick, we could see that time just wasn't close enough coming off the final corner. So again, he's got to really focus on getting a good run through the infield, or hoping for Tim Delisle to make a little error to get close enough off onto the final corner. No other battles imminently through the rest of the field, so I think we're going to stick with this battle for the win. As the back marker Julie, I think, is going to be moving out the way he does, holds his position, stays offline, and allows leaders to fly by, working their way into turn 7, and then a switchback sequence through 8, 9, and 10 as they again come back out onto the circuit. Ilbrink just briefly then was within 3.5 tenths, but he's dropped right back to 6.5, so it's not close enough again to get a good run down into turn 1.
Didn't get a great exit from that final corner either. Just running a little bit wide. I think he had to get out the throttle when really he wants to be putting it right to the metal. And now 8 tenths of a second behind. So it's going to have to be surely some kind of gift from Tim Delisle. And also the run to the line isn't particularly long. Well, it's pretty long to be fair. But I think Ilbrink really needs all the run down to turn 1 if he's going to really make a move. So Delisle will just be praying that these 3 back markers ahead, who are all fighting, of course, don't hold him up. They will catch them, but will they influence?
Yeah, like you say, I think time has run out for Paul Ilbrink this time by. We've got these group of back markers right up ahead, so unless they really start squabbling just in front of him, who's it? I think it's Scott Sims and Anders from looks of it, who we've seen battling in previous laps. How aware are they of the leaders coming by? Because they're going to catch him before the start-finish line. The 2 back markers are on top of each other coming through the chicane there. Scott Sims, then Anders from, we can see all over the back of him. There's Delisle, there's Ilbrink. Ilbrink is just half a couple of steps behind. Delisle wide. I commented a couple of laps ago about him running out onto the grass onto that corner. It looked like that time he just took it a couple of inches too far. Ilbrink manages to scamper by, doesn't have to worry about the back markers again, takes a pressured victory the whole time over Tim Delisle. Delisle makes that crucial error on the final lap of the final corner of the final lap, finishes in that second position. I.M. Keeman, cracking result from him to be best of the rest in third. We didn't get to see much of him after the first 2 laps, but congratulations to Keeman for taking the podium spot. Sam Borski battling hard with James Pinsker as they come onto the front straight, but it looks like Pinsker's got this sewn up, especially with that skinny rear wing. But what a surprise ending, an uncharacteristic mistake from Delisle there at the critical moment to hand Ilbrink the win.
Yeah, also we've got Sims battling Bill and From. Currently, they are only halfway round the lap. They literally were the drivers just in front of the leaders right at the end of that race. So they just about got 1 extra lap in. And I think they've got to take some kind of responsibility for Delisle making that mistake. It just backed Delisle a little bit up into Ilbrink and made him have to push that a little bit harder into that final corner. And it's really cost him in the end. Here comes Bill. Then can he hang off From? He's got a nice run. Oh, he's spinner. And that is a very unusual spin.
Interesting.
There.
Yeah.
That could have been him with the DRS open, losing a lot of downforce. Fortunately, he can literally tow back to the pits if he wants, because he's the last driver on the lead lap. So that will be frustrating for him. I don't think he would have got the run anyway. He had to drive a little bit further around the outside. And, well, appropriate way to round off the race, as we see a very injured car in the background, just going across the start-finish line.
Yeah, frantic all the way through the field. It felt like it just calmed down in the last couple of laps there, but all of a sudden it kicked off at the end. So we've got a couple of replays to catch up on once Samuli is able to bring them up. I think we want to see the error again of Tim Delisle first of all. And here we go, right on cue. The back markers, you can see, are far enough away at the minute, and I think he's just going to run out onto the grass. There we go, just runs out onto the grass, loses a rear. And again, that's exactly the corner where I spotted grass getting kicked up maybe 2 laps earlier, and that time maybe distracted by the back markers, but certainly not because they were doing anything wrong. Yeah, just puts that left rear and left front, for that matter, onto the grass and throws away victory at the last gasp. Yeah,
and as you were saying earlier on, very uncharacteristic. I can't recall Tim Delisle making a mistake all season long, and then making it at a crucial point there. So fortunate that he didn't take out Paul Ilbrink. I was ready to announce I.M. Keeman as the race winner. I'll say how it would need to be a contact between the 2 of them, and That's what we almost got. Nice avoidance actually from Ulrich, because he had to get right to the right side of the track in order to avoid the car number 2. And that, of course, is massive for the championship. This is the biggest strength of field race of the week. And Paul Ilbrink, championship leader, scores a few extra points. And he'll probably be the favourite for the championship going into the last round of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, because it's a single split here today, I dare say there's probably not that bigger points on offer. Could well be the biggest split of the week still. But then you would think maybe that weeks counted before they're going to have bigger scores maybe. So we'll have to see how it all shuffles out. But as we can see, yeah, Paul Ilbrink took the win. In the end, it was recorded as 4.5 seconds over Tim Delisle, but that does not really tell us how the race went. I'm Keeman then finished a further, get my words out, 3 seconds further back in that third position. So yeah, cracking job again for him to get the podium. Rob Bohr, very, very lonely race in 4th, but I'm sure he'd be happy with the result and the points. James Pinsker coming through from some incidents at the start, recovering from what he was outside the top 10, I reckon. Yeah, finishing up in that 5th, so good recovery drive from Pinsker. Edward Zamborski then involved with that contact midway through the race, with Cedric Beale finishing in 6th. Luke Groom finishing the 7th. I want to say that Luke Groom is maybe our first of the maybe normal sort of second split drivers looking at his iRacing. So congratulations to Luke for finishing in that strong 7th position. Thomas Knoll had a little bit of a tough race in that 8th position, with Alessandro Roccatello in 9th and Omar Baha in 10th. Ollie Prenton then finished ahead of Scott Sims, who we saw battling each other all the way through the race. And then as was Cedric Beale, with Anders From and Stephen Brzezinski at the end. Bimir Ludovic, then David Lopez, Joshua Collins, Alejandro Blanco and Ronaldo Augusto in 20th, David Weisbach and Nugan in 22nd, and Lubomir Moric getting caught up in the incident on lap 1, turn 1, being the last of the classified runners in 23rd position. So yeah, 23 entered the race, and a lot less than that actually managed to get to the finish, unfortunately, with those incidents at the start. Yeah, so I think we'll... sorry, Sam, go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say how there's quite big run-up areas. That first part of the circuit is pretty difficult to hit the wall, and some of the drivers managed to find it. Admittedly, the majority of those collisions were on the opening lap and kind of into one another. It's a shame, and I think we're about to get a replay of that first couple of corners, because it is an extremely narrow part of the track.
Yeah, we never did quite get the opportunity to have a look and see what happened at turn 1. I think there were at least 3 separate incidents going through, and yeah, really did cause the guys some problems. What we'll do is we'll get... oh, there I was going to say we'll get Ilbrink in whilst Samuli gets cameras ready, but then right on cue we can see the start here lining up. So you've got that long run into turn 1. And then we're going to see where's the first of the contacts. We know that Augusto was one of the cars caught up. He qualified in 3rd. He's the black car, 2nd back on the right. So let's watch him as he turns in just behind Paul Ilbrink. Loses a rear, so it was Augusto that started the chain reaction. He lost a rear, took out 2 other cars, and I dare say it was part of the concertina effect from the rest of that caught all the rest of the runners out, and the rest of the damage from there. So, and further contact down on turn 3 as well. So yeah, Augusto, he had such a good qualifying, qualifying in that 3rd place, just those cold tyres, lost the rear on turn in, and that seemed to set off the whole chain reaction, Sam.
Yeah, it was a massive shame for him, because he wasn't really challenged as well. He kind of just slots into 3rd place, but losing the car, and so difficult with the cold tyres. Of course, very cool track as well out here. It was about 20 degrees to start off the race, so struggling with that. And this is even the new tyre model either. I mean, if they're struggling with cold tyres with this tyre model, I think next season, hopefully when the new tyre model is implemented, they're going to struggle even more.
Yeah, quite possible. Right, so yeah, good to get a sense as to what happened there in turn 1. But one car who didn't need to worry about that, as he was just ahead of the instance, was Paul Ilbrink, our race winner in the end there. Congratulations, Paul. It seemed like an uncharacteristic mistake from Tim right at the last gas there, but you had him under lots and lots of pressure the whole way through the race.
Yeah, I had the whole race under control, really. The incident was bound to happen, so yeah, I was expected to win here. No, that was like a bit of a pleasant surprise, I guess, for me. But yeah.
No, I say looked like you were confident here on track. I said you were hustling Tim the whole race through. High downforce setup from the looks of your rear wing. It's obviously a really tricky balance between getting the infield and the oval section kind of leveled out with the lap times. We saw quite a few differences out there with setup choice, but it seemed obviously you were confident with what you'd gone for.
Yeah, I think like some of the setups that most people were running, they started off with medium downforce, and during like a league race we did yesterday, we already figured out that high downforce was the way to go. So I changed that yesterday already, but in that race Tim was still really quick as well, and for this race I like shortened the gearings a bit, which like helps you when you're driving alone, but it just like makes it impossible to pass on the straight. So that was a bit of a downside to it, but at least I could keep up with Tim and like be close enough to, I guess, put him under a little bit of pressure. But yeah, just with the cars in front of him, I think he lost a bit of downforce in that last lap in the entering the oval again. So he ran wide, and that cost him the win. But,
Yeah, absolutely did. And like you say, the setup choice seemed to certainly pay dividends for you. We saw at the start of the broadcast that going into the session, you were top of the standings now, with the various drop weeks starting to take into effect, and the points sort of evening out as we come into the last full week of the season ahead of us now. How are you expecting the points to play out with, say, like the points that you've already banked and your nearest rivals as well?
I don't know exactly. I might be on top now because some people have like really bad drop weeks still. But like I didn't race the first 2 weeks, and I didn't score that many points in the first weeks. And there were like a lot of points given to the top guys in those first weeks. So if they get like a decent point score next week, I think it will be difficult to stay in first. But yeah, I don't know. Depends a bit on the last race, I guess.
And that last race is going to be at Road America again. That we can expect to see a lot of slipstreaming through that race. I think lots of side-by-side action through some of the sort of middle sectors of corners, with switching back a little bit as they go through. Obviously, a very different circuit to here. You know, lots of undulations, whereas Indianapolis is pretty much all flat. Should be a good circuit to finish the season on, I think. Paul, looking forward to driving it in these cars.
Yeah, I think so. There's like a couple interesting corners there, and some long enough straights to use the draft and DRS to full effectiveness. So I hope it provides some good racing.
Great. Well, we look forward to seeing it then for the final broadcast of the season next week. If you want to give your shout-outs to your team and your sponsors, Paul.
Yeah, I want to thank you first again for broadcasting this race, doing a good job. I've like watched them all back, and they're really nice to spectate and spend a Sunday afternoon with watching those. And of course, I want to thank my team members at Radicals Online and our partners and sponsors: Cranfield Simulation, Joel Real Timing, Armor Center, SS Sim Race, Motorf Podcast, Turn Racing, Simmortals, Sideways, and Pixel Dust.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you at the sharp end again next week, Paul, and good luck for hanging on to the top position in Championship.
All right, see you next week.
Thank you. Right, so we got Edward Samborski waiting in the interview area as well, Sam. So there is Edward in the commentary channel now, and I'll hand you over to him.
Yes, congratulations, Edward, out there. In the end, 6th place, but there were some pretty epic battles out there.
Yeah, that was, man, if you only knew. You could have seen my heart rate before the race. I was more calm during it. I don't know what to do with the setup then. And I figured I was never going to touch the guys in the top 5, so I went for the high downforce setup that I literally just made up before I started. And it paid because I got remotely close to where I think I could have finished. And without that setup, I don't think many of those battles would have happened. I think it just would have been follow the leader till the straights and draft by him.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the racing from you guys. Do you take into consideration how easy it would be to overtake and defend when it comes to building a setup? Because you seem to be a lot faster than the drivers around you, and yet just down the straights, the likes of Noel and maybe Cream as well were just slipstreaming straight past you. So do you take into account the racecraft, or do you just go for the fastest setup over one lap?
Well, that's a loaded question. Usually I just go for the fastest if it's a track I know, because I figure in theory you won't really have to battle with anyone, because if they're qualified slower than you, they shouldn't have the pace to catch up to you. I know that's kind of, with draft and mistakes, it matters a lot, but as a general rule today, I just went straight for being able to pass on the infield, because I figured if somebody had a lower downforce setup in front of me, I could stick within a couple of tenths with them, and I knew on the infield I was just absolutely flying. So that's what I did today, and it worked out well enough. I mean, I should have had the pass at the end, but I chickened out. I didn't want to drive in the back of James.
Yeah, it's very understandable. But yeah, still, 6th place, really good. Going into the final round of the championship, Road America, what are your feelings towards that circuit?
I absolutely enjoy driving the circuit. The one thing I don't like about it is sometimes people get a little aggravated, for lack of a better way of describing it. Meaning, you get locked into epic battles for like 2 or 3 laps, and it seems like every corner you're side by side with someone, they get less patient with you. So I enjoy racing it. I'm just very cautious about, if you're fighting for 3rd place for 7 or 8 laps, what's going to end up happening, because I have been wrecked more than once there. So, like I said, I like it, but cautious.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we wish you the best of luck for that. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
I'd like to say congratulations to Paul and Tim for putting the series and all the front runners putting the series in good light. Thank you guys for broadcasting. It's good fun. And I'll thank my internet company, Spectrum, for not having a dropout.
Awesome. Thanks for having a chat with us, Eddie, and best of luck for next week.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Excellent. So one more interview to go for the evening. It was interesting that we had Edward come in first of all, because next we're going to have Cedric Bill. There was contact between those 2 drivers midway through the race. So I wonder if they had a little chat with each other whilst they were in the waiting area. But evening, Cedric, looked like a good, strong start to your race. You were up as high as 5th thanks to the incidents at the start, but then got gradually got caught up in more and more problems and finished down in 13th. So how was the race from your side?
Hello. The race was really disappointed. I'm really disappointed about the race. It wasn't my day tonight. I was working a lot on the track to be on good pace, but the start was good, as you were saying, but I had an issue with my eyes in my headset, so I started to drive slower. Then Edward came behind, he passed me. So at this time I was better in my race, and there was this contact which broke my front wing, and that's why I lost all my paces later.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate that you had that contact. It looked like, it was going to be a strong result for you before that. So yeah, headset. So you're running in VR, then I take it, Cedric. How do you find using that with in these single-seater cars? We really feel enclosed in that space, much more involved when you're driving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really good. I have the Rift S, and it's really cool to be. If you love racing, you are just happy to be really in the track. So yeah, it's really cool.
And it's been great to see you out on circuit sort of all season long. I think we've seen you for every broadcast, or almost anyway. And you and your teammates' liveries always stand out well on track. So it's good to see you out there. Commiserations for the tough race, but we could see, as you say, that you had good pace certainly at the start. Next week's going to be Road America. Are you expecting to put in the same level of preparation there as you did this week for Indianapolis?
I think it would be better. I'm better in Road America. I didn't know this track, so I was just learning it. But I will not be on the stream next week, so that's why I wanted to come here to thanks all of your work. So it was great, and we spent a good time all together. That was great to promote the 3.5 series. And yeah, I will do the races of Road America during the week, but I will not be here for the next stream.
Great. Well, thank you for letting us know, Cedric. Good luck for your races during the week, and thank you for your praise. We've certainly enjoyed running 3.5s here this season, and we're glad if we've helped, promote it a little bit. Hopefully, some new drivers have had a bit more of a look at the series this year and gone to join in, because for sure it's a fun series to drive in, and it's great to see all the regulars out there each week. Have you got any sponsors or anything you'd like to give a shout out to, Cedric, before we let you go?
Yeah, I just wanted to thanks my teammates. MXS is the French team, and thanks all the drivers. And thanks Apex Racing for the good podcast. And thanks everybody. Hope next season we have more and more drivers. Thanks to that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Cedric. So we look forward to seeing you again next season then. Good luck for Road America. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right, so that was Cedric Bill. As I say, it's a shame that he had a little bit of a tough run through the middle of a race there, but otherwise looked like he was much more on top of the car than maybe we've seen at other times during the season. Frantic race and Sam all came to a head at turn 1, lap 1. Well, the two highlights were turn 1, lap 1, and penultimate corner, final lap.
Yeah, pretty much. And between that wasn't bad either, we should point out. But no, action from start to finish. And one of the best ways I think we're broadcasting this series. It was great to see 23 drivers out there as well. We were saying earlier on how we only had the one split. If anything, the one split was better than the two splits, because it's much better to have kind of 23 cars out there rather than a 13 and a 14 car split like we've seen previously in the season. So brilliant to see so many drivers out there, and of course get involved in the series. Of course, we're coming to the end of the championship, but if you fancy taking the Formula 3.5 car for a spin next season coming up, you can get a little bit of practice for yourselves, and then you can take part in these races next season as well. So certainly do recommend it, because the driving in this series, it's quite a range from the very top guys to maybe some of the lower guys, but it's a lot of fun, no doubt.
Yeah, and it means that you're always going to have someone to drive against, aren't you? Hopefully, if you join the series, no matter your level of ability. We've seen some of the very, very best drivers on service here in the 3.5s, and we've seen great racing from those a little bit lower iRacing and a little bit lower down the order. So it's been a great season of racing that we've watched, and like I say, one more week to go to look forward to next week at Road America. And we've got a fun week ahead, of course, with our broadcasts in general here on Apex Racing TV. So I'll quickly go through my normal spiel of what we've got lined up. Tomorrow morning, 9:45 GMT, we've got Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT. I believe that series has been growing strength to strength this year, especially. Some huge names rocked up last week, I believe, including a certain V8 supercar real life driver as well. So definitely want to tune into there and catch that action packed GT racing. Then Sunday night, Sam, your baby of the ARL American GT series kicks off. 8 o'clock broadcast starts, Sam?
Yes, and there's still some GT3 entries available, so if you want to sign up, go onto our Facebook page. There'll be a pinned post and you can sign up there. 7 rounds, all American circuits, GT3s and GTEs, 2 races, reverse grids. Should be a lot of fun.
Excellent. Looking forward to seeing that start off then tomorrow night. 8 o'clock GMT, as he confirmed. The World GT Championship have finished their season now, so no Monday night action here on Apex Racing TV. But then early hours of Tuesday morning is going to be Rickmatech. Which one is it this week? Sports Car Series?
Yep.
Rickmatech Sports Car Series this week. Monday night, brought to you by Tyler Maxson and Jonathan Simon. Tuesday morning then we've got IMSA Sports Car Series, 8:45 GMT, and then our first broadcast of the week on the iRacing Esports Network from the BSR MX-5 Pro Series. Again, almost coming to the end of the season for them. It's been a mammoth year-long series of 36 rounds, and that is going to be coming to its conclusion very, very soon. Sim Racers World also on the iRacing Sports Network, in fact, has finished. So again, that is one that already wrapped up this week. Who won a championship there, Sam, since that's your broadcast?
That was Martin van Loosdort, Jeremy Hessels, and
I'm sorry.
Usually.
Okay, well done,
But
excellent.
3 title winners. I can go through the teams as well. It was Rev Match Racing, Esports, and Dynamics Racing. There you go. You put me on the spot, and I
Yeah,
succeeded.
it was not intended. I do apologise. So yeah, it's a cracking season of racing I hear over there as well, and more to come from Sim Racers World in the future here on Apex Racing TV. So keep your eye out for that. Then on Thursday night, 8 o'clock GMT, ARL TCR series. That is going to be the final round for the moment until they have a short break, I believe, leading then into the showdown section. Sam, again, that's all under your control on that one. And then IndyCar Road Friday evening, last race of the season, of course, because that's in another official series back on Apex Racing TV. V8s are running next week, Sam. They had a week off this week,
Yep.
right? So yeah, is that the last one of the season for them as well? They working to the same
It
schedule?
will be the last week of the season. I don't know what's going to be on Apex Racing TV after next week. I think it's just going to be a barren wasteland, to be honest. I'm not saying you should certainly subscribe. I should really be promoting the channel. But there's a lot of series ending all of a sudden.
Yeah, week 13 is going to be pretty quiet, I think. Fortunately, we've got the American ARL series to keep us going. And then that brings us back to the 3.5s next Saturday. Now, the only thing I did miss is next Sunday, there will be another One Sim charity race, which we'll have more details for shortly. But yeah, otherwise, that's our schedule for the week ahead on Apex Racing TV. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that bell notification so you don't miss when we go live. Like the videos if you enjoy them. Like the page on Facebook if you want to watch them there as well. And we are trying to keep building that Twitch channel as well. The numbers are creeping up over there. So yeah, you can also watch on Twitch. Of course, the picture quality often would be slightly higher, you'd expect on Twitch, thanks to the differences between how they run their services. So yeah, join it over there for that slightly crisper image of these Formula 3.5 cars. Right, so that will finish up our broadcast for the evening then. Lee Thompson, Sam Fitzpatrick, and Samuli Kumo doing the job on the cameras. We shall look forward to seeing you all again next week for the final round of the season. Road America.